historic fact, but be a myth enshrining philosophic truths concerning eternal principles, then it must be interpreted with spiritual discernment, and its analysis will reveal matters of real importance. The story of the building of the temple, then, is a philosophical instruction, garbed in quasi-historical form, concerning the structure of the human soul. That temple is not one of common brick and stone, but of the unhewn stone or incorruptible raw material of which the Creator fashioned the human organism. The Jerusalem in which it was built was not the geographical one in Palestine, but the eternal city of peace in the heavens, not, as St. Paul says, the Jerusalem which now, but the Jerusalem above, which is the mother of us all, like the Greek Demeter. Its builders were not three human personages resident in the Levant, but the divine energy considered in its three constituent principles spoken of in our instruction lectures as wisdom, strength and beauty, which as pillars of his work run through and form the metaphysical warp and basis of all created things. These three metaphysical principles may be defined in modern terms as life essence, or the substantial spirit of wisdom, incorruptible matter, serving as the mold, matrix or vehicle of that life essence, to give it fixity, form and objectiveness, strength, and lastly the fabricative intellectual principle or logos bonding these two together and constituting the whole an intelligent and functionally effective instrument, beauty. Of these three principles, or upon these three pillars, was the human soul originally and divinely built in the heaven world, and our lectures, therefore, rightly say that those three pillars also allude to Solomon, king of Israel, Hiram, king of Tyre, and Hiram-Obif, because those names personify the indissociable triadic constituents of the divine unity. They are also shown inscribed upon the central symbolic altar in the royal large degree as further evidence of this divine construction of the human soul. The temple of the soul has, however, now been destroyed and thrown down from its primitive eminence and grandeur. Humanity, instead of being a collective united organic whole, has become shattered into innumerable fragmentary separated parts, not one stone standing upon another of its ruined building. It has lost consciousness of the genuine secrets of its own origin and nature and has now to be content with the spurious substituted knowledge it picks up from sense impressions in this outer world. Like Persephone, it has eaten the pomegranates of Pluto's dark realm in preference to the ambrosia of Arcady, and until the poison is eliminated from its system it cannot permanently reattain its unfallen state, but at best must endure a rhythm of deaths and rebirths and of intermittent periods of labor in this world and refreshment beyond it. But it may become cleansed, the temple can be rebuilt, and each mason's soul that is wrought into a true die or square by his work upon himself here, becomes one more new stone of the restored temple in the heavens. A further word is necessary as to the concealed significance of Solomon and the two hirams. Solomon personifies the primordial life essence or substantialized divine wisdom which is the basis of our being. It is defined in the Book of Wisdom, chap. 7, 25-27, as a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty, the brightness of the everlasting light, the unspotted mirror of the power of God and the image of His goodness. It is described as a king because it must needs transcend and overrule whatever is inferior to itself, and as king of Israel because Israel itself means cooperating or ruling with God as distinct from being associated with beings or affairs of a sub-divine order. To conjoin this transcendental life essence to a vehicle which should give it fixity and form required the assistance of another dominant or kingly principle, personified as Hiram, king of Tyre, who supplied the building material. Now inasmuch as we are dealing with purely metaphysical ideas, it will be obvious that the Tyre in question has no relation to the Levantine seaport of that name. The name Tyre in Hebrew means rock and the strength, compactness and durability which we associate with rock, whilst the same word recurs in Greek as tros and in Latin as terra, earth, and as juris, implying form, hardness, consistency and durability. King of Tyre, therefore, is interpretable as the cosmic principle which gives solidity and form to the spiritual fluidic and formless life essence, and which is comparable to a cup intended to hold liquid. Solomon and Hiram of Tyre therefore contribute their respective properties of life essence and durable form and building material as the groundwork of the soul, which then is made functionally effective by the addition of the third principle described as Hiram-obif, the widow's son, and personifying the active intellectual principle or logos. In a word, Hiram-obif is the Christ principle immanent in every soul, crucified, dead and buried in all who are not alive to its presence, but resident in all as a saving force. Christ in you, the hope of glory. Consistently with Christ-like humility, Hiram-obif, literally, the teacher from the Father, is not described as a king as are Solomon and Hiram of Tyre, but as one of no reputation, a widow's son, a beautiful touch of Gnostic symbolism referable to the derelict or widowed nature of the divine motherhood or Sophia owing to the errancy and defection from wisdom of her frail children. Such of those children as have rejoined, or are striving to rejoin, their mother are alone worthy to be called the widow's sons, and it is to the cry to those who have rejoined her from those still laboring at that task in the flesh, and perhaps wiping from their brow the bloody sweat of their Gethsemane anguish in the struggle, that the traditional petition applies, "Come to my help, ye sons of the widow, for I am the widow's son." The temple of the human soul, primordially constituted of the three principles just spoken of in due balance and proportion and divinely pronounced to be very good, has deflected from that state. Its fall has been effected by the disproportioned, unbalanced and, therefore, disorderly abuse of its inherent powers. Just as a man in a temper becomes temporarily unbalanced and liable to do what he would not in serene moments, so the soul has disorganized its own nature utterly. Of the three pillars that should support it, wisdom, gnosis, has fallen and become replaced by a flexible and shifting prop of speculative opinion. Strength, divine dynamic energy, has become exchanged for the frailty of the perishing flesh. Beauty, the godlike radiant form that should adorn and liken man to his divine creator, has become superseded by every ugliness of imperfection. Man is now a ruined temple, over which is written Ichabod. Ichabod. The glory is departed. Severed from conscious intercourse with his vital and immortal principle, he is a prisoner in captivity to himself and his lower temporal nature. It remains for him to retrace his steps and rebuild his temple, to continue no longer a bond-slave to his self-made illusions and the attractions of worldly possessions, but become a free man and mason, engaged in shaping himself into a living and precious stone for the cosmic temple of a regenerate humanity unto which, when completed and dedicated, deity will again enter and abide. To be installed in the chair of King Solomon, therefore, means in its true sense the reattainment of a wisdom we have lost and the revival in ourselves of the divine life essence which is the basis of our being. With the reattainment of that wisdom all that is comprised in the terms strength and beauty will be reattained also, for the three pillars stand in eternal association and balance. Not to reattain it, not to revive the divine life essence, during our sojourn in this world, is to miss the opportunity which life and physical conditions provides, since the after-death state is one not of labor at this work, but of refreshment and rest, where no real progress is possible. Initiation, therefore, was instituted to impart the science of its reattainment and so lift the individual soul to a new life basis from which it could proceed to work out its own salvation and develop its inherent powers along the true line of its destiny and evolution. But, as the ancient mysteries tout, the soul that never even begins this work in this world will not be able to begin it hereafter, but will remain suspended in the more tenuous planes of this planet until such time as it is once again drawn into the vortex of generation by the ever-turning wheel of life. To quote Plato again, those who instituted the mysteries for us taught us that whosoever descended into Hades, the after-death state, uninitiated and without being a partaker in the mysteries, will be plunged into mire and darkness, but whoever arrived there purified and initiated will dwell with the gods. This teaching is reproduced in Masonry and the reference to the Master Mason being admitted to the assembly of the just made perfect, the implication being that those who have not reached that proficiency and are neither just, that is, rectified, nor perfected, will abide upon a lower level of post-mortem existence. for the levels of superphysical life are numerous. In my Father's house are many mansions, or, literal y, resting places, and their occupants are graduated in hierarchical order according to their degree of fitness and spiritual eminence. The disordered modern world, with its perverse democratic ideals of equality and uniformity, has lost all sense of the hierarchic principle, which since it obtains in the higher world ought to be reflected in this. Order is heaven's first law, and, that confessed, some are, and must be, greater than the rest. But Masonry preserves the witness to this graduation, and to the existence of separate tiers of life in the heaven places, in the symbolic distribution of its more advanced members. Above the craft lodges there presides the provincial Grand Lodge, beyond that rules the Grand Lodge of the nation. Theoretically higher than any of these is the Royal Arch Chapter, with the provincial and grand chapters towering beyond that. In the symbolic clothing worn by the members of each of these ranks the observant student will perceive the intention to give appropriate expression to the truth thereby signified. The Masonic apron has been explained in an earlier paper as a figure of the soul's corporeality, the body, not to be confused with the gross physical body, which it wears and will display when it passes from this life. Its pure white is fringed in the case of junior brethren with a pale shade of that blue which, even in physical nature, is the color of the heavens. With seniors in the provincial and grand lodges this has intensified to the deepest degree of that hue in correspondence with their theoretical spiritual development, whilst the gold lace adornments of the clothing emblematize what is referred to in the psalmist's words, "The king's daughter, the soul, is all glorious within, her clothing is of wrought gold," for as the life essence or wisdom becomes increasingly wrought or substantialized in us, it becomes the objectified corporeality of the soul. In the Royal Arch the craft devotional blue is intershot with red, the color of fire or spiritual ardor, the blend resulting in that purple which both in earth and heaven is the prerogative of royalty. Thus, by their clothing in the various grades, the members of Masonry emblematize on earth the angels and archangels and all the company of heaven. Some of them are doffed with light as with a garment, others are ministers of flaming fire. In a short paper such as this our reference to the ancient mysteries is necessarily brief and has been restricted to the Greek Eleusinian system. Many others of course existed and an extensive, though scattered, literature is available for those who would pursue the subject further in the direction of the Egyptian, Samothracian, Chaldean, Mithraic, Gnostic and other systems. In their respective days and localities they formed the authoritative centers of religion and philosophy, using those terms as but phases of an indivisible subject which nowadays has become split up into many brands of theology and speculative philosophy having little and often no possible connection with each other. What the old writers made public about the mysteries of course discreetly avoids descriptions of the deeper truths they imparted or of the actual processes of initiation. These must always remain a subject of secrecy, but by the perspicuous reader enough can be found in their purposely obscure and metaphorical accounts to indicate what occurred, and with what effect upon the candidate. Initiation, we have already said, is something which but few are fit to receive, even after long and rigorous preparation, and fewer still are competent to impart. It was an experience of which a writer has said in regard to the candidate, "Vult and sanctum, Vulficit either finds him holy or makes him so." Virgil's account in the 6th night of the initiation of Aeneas into Elysium, or the supernatural light, or that of Lucius, again a name signifying enlightenment, in the golden ass of Apuleius, when he was permitted to see the sun at midnight, are instructive instances. So also the exclamation of Clement of Alexandria, who had been received into the Gnostic school, "O truly sacred mysteries! O pure light! I am led by the light of the torch to the view of heaven and of God. I become holy by initiation." The Lord himself is the Hierophant who, leading the candidate for initiation to the Legat, seals him and presents him to the Father to be preserved forever. These are the orgies of my mysteries. If thou wilt, come and be thou also initiated, and thou shalt join in the dance with the angels around the uncreated, imperishable and only true God, the Word of God joining in the strain. The mysteries came to an end as public institutions in the 6th century, when from political considerations they and the teaching of the secret doctrine and philosophy became prohibited by the Roman government, under Justinian, who aimed at inaugurating an